we go. We're live, it says.
Okay, we're live. Well, it doesn't work on Instagram. I don't
Fine,
know.
we'll share later.
Okay, we'll share this later. Sorry, Instagrammers, if you're waiting for Instagram. Hi, guys. How are you? Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, as they say. I am here with a really wonderful human who I have had the pleasure of working with over different projects. And we had a great conversation the other day, and we were talking about how similar things can be in what you learn in the military as compared to what you learn as a parent, or what you've learned, I should say, as a parent, and why certain things that military teaches our soldiers and our other military people is so relative to helping you create a cooperative, respectful family unit without this. We're not talking about the my way or the highway. We're not talking about that. So if you're ready to create a respectful family, you're ready to really stop yelling, because guys, I'm all about not yelling at your kids, then this is for you to listen to, okay? And to tune in and to make sure that these are some things you're incorporating into your home. So super important. So I would like to introduce you to Justin J. We'll call him J. Boyum. And he is former military. And we're going to go over 3 things that he's learned, because he is also a dad, that has been really helping him create family harmony, cooperation, listening, and really has ended frustration, irritation, overwhelm, all of that stuff. So, Justin, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you, Celia. Thanks for bringing me on. It's been wonderful to get to work with you, on different projects, and really exciting things that we're going to get to talk about today. And I just think it's an honor. I love what you're all about, and helping parents to not yell at their kids. That definitely resonates with me now that I've got 2 youngsters of my own that are not too far away from being teenagers, and so I totally understand just the value and how it can be very difficult. And so I'm honored to be here.
Oh, well, I am honored to have you. And yes, and we are working on a current project. You
Right.
see it running down under your screen. You know that I'm all about not yelling. And so it is really time to get that under control. I am working to help 10 million parents not yell at their kids. We need to get working on it so that we can reach that goal and then make it even higher, because there is an epidemic of anger and rage in this world. And so much of yelling and aggressive parenting is considered normal. And there are societies that encourage it. And we are losing the piece of the puzzle that's about respect. So let's talk now about what you learned when you were in the military. What you said there were 3 things, but let's start with one of them, or you can use all 3 and focus on one.
Let me jump just really quick in here, if you don't mind, Celia, because I think that a lot of people think about the military, and this is certainly what I thought about the military before I got into it. Now, I was lucky enough to get an ROTC scholarship, and so I went to college first and then into the military. So I came in as an officer, but I always thought of the military as like what you see in the movies, where it's boot camp, or Band of Brothers, where they're just drilling them hard to get ready for war, and so it's just all kinds of it's a hard thing to be a part of. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna do this. It's going to pay for school, and I was, it's an honor to get to go do it, but I never really wanted to do that for like my whole career. I was going to do a little bit of time to get out, but then what I learned when I got there was this completely different experience. Now, are there still times when you've got to raise your voice because you're in a hard situation? You've got to do some certain things, but obviously you're working with adults. But what I really learned was that the leadership style is really very, very values driven, especially in the officer corps. You don't see a lot of yelling, and maybe like if you're in like an active situation, maybe, but you don't need to do a lot of that because there's respect and things built in. And I remember even back in my college days, I was studying kinesiology, and I wanted to do a research paper in a course I was taking, and they were like, "Hey, you come up with this thesis that you do," and I was like, "Well, I wanted to study because I'm from Texas and we love football." I was like, "I wanted to study like why do coaches in football still like yell at the players like all the time if we already know that positive reinforcement is already the study that makes sense, right? To be the best way to train people and get what you want, especially out of young people as they're developing. I was like, so why do coaches like yell and like they're hard on their kids? And they told me no, because they say like the science is already decided. I was like, well, wait a second. So just to validate where you're coming from, like even though it's a natural tendency when we get frustrated to want to like raise our voice and do things, it's really not it's really actually detrimental overall
It is.
to be effective, right? Um, that's a little bit of things that I learned, and really as I started to get into entrepreneurship and start to run my own businesses, I think back to the things that made me successful as an Army officer and how they apply to really kind of anything. Like these are three principles for certainly being a great parent, but it's really in anything. If I can really narrow those down, and they'll make a lot of sense when I share them. Like you'll be like, oh yes, absolutely. And anybody watching this, you'd be like, yeah, that like. But if you put them in this framework, it really makes a lot of sense. And so the best way I know to describe it, so we'll do these three principles. It's like imagine that you wanted to. Can I draw? Can people see when I put stuff up on the screen?
Absolutely, Joe.
Can
We
I do
love.
that? I like to do that, so it kind of helps me talk through and organize my thoughts. Because you asked me like, "Hey, share one," but like, let's imagine that, um, like, the ultimate goal as a parent is that you want to be a proud parent of your children, because I imagine every parent wants that.
Absolutely.
You want to be proud of the work you did as a parent. You want to be able to share with others like how well you did in that situation. And so imagine the finished product of that. Let's represent it. Let's analogize it to a big, beautiful building in like a downtown skyrise. So I'm going to try to do this. Now I've told you I'm military, so my artwork is suspect. They say in the Army we don't make a lot of things; we break things. So so you're gonna go with my high rise here. I'm gonna try to draw some windows on it, and
Thank you for joining.
yeah, and so I'm gonna try. Let me try to do a couple rows of windows. It's not gonna look great, but like
That's
let's just say I have my big building right here, right? And there's my little door, and I've got some
very
windows up here.
cool.
And I want to make it a skyscraper because I want to be super successful, right? And so when you're building a building, right, Celia? Like I always ask this. I did this in a workshop. I said, well, "What's the first thing you do if you want to build a building?" And people are like, "Well, you want to make a plan. You want to get good materials, or you want to have like a good strategy to do something, right?" And I said, "Well, ultimately, the first thing you have to do if you were going to build a skyscraper is to have a solid foundation,
Right.
right?" And any architect would tell you they can actually tell you how tall a building will be based on the depth and strength of the foundation, right? So that's number one was there. And for in the military, we might call that the mission, right? And in other words, I like to think of it as clarity, right? Of number one is to have clarity. And here, let me write that down. And just really understand what do you really want. And I think a lot of times, a lot of clarity, like people think about mission of what am I going to go do? And that's certainly part of clarity, but it's really more about like, who do you really want to be? Who are you going to be in that story? And I think a lot of times we fall short of like we think of ourselves one way, and then I can think of times where I'm in the middle of something, and then my daughter comes and knocks on the door, and you may be on a phone call, and so you can't necessarily address it, and then they just keep going, "Dad, Dad, Dad, Dad," and then you immediately go, "What?" Right, and you realize like, oh, I kind of messed up there, right? Like that was probably not the best way to do it. So you really have to have clarity at the part of it. In the military, that's the mission. Like, hey, it's the mission of this unit to go do this, to serve this goal, and understand exactly what's going to be involved in that. And that's why our military, and in my opinion, and many people's opinion, is the best in the world because they have massive amounts of clarity. They know exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, and who's responsible for it, and they accept the values. If you don't accept the values of the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, you won't be in it. You must assimilate to that. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so that's why you're very successful. And I'd love your feedback of like where you see that in the parenting world. That to me is what I do. And I do this work all the time of like, who am I going to be? What's going to be the best version of myself, and make sure that I'm embodying that not only at work, but at home.
Right. And when I work with parents, it's not just about who you want to be. It's also about who you want your family to be. Why did you decide to create a family? What is that vision? What is that mission for your family? Because very often we have kids and there's no direction, like you say. And so it's not just who is the person you want to be, because who you are affects your family. It affects your kids. They're watching you, they're learning from you. So, bigger picture is also your family, you and your kids and your partner. Why did you do this? Why did you get together? Why did you make a family?
Absolutely. And I think that getting clear about that, whether, I mean, I know sometimes people don't necessarily plan ahead of time. It's like we've all been in that moment where maybe even the first or second or part of there, like maybe you didn't plan on the way the family came to be, but now you are in that. It's saying it's super clear because it's no longer about you, right? And we all know this, and how many stories we read, how many movies you've seen where childhood trauma, even if it's not like a super like stressful situation, can still show up for people in many different ways,
Right.
right? I myself come from a family where I've got I'm the oldest of four children in my family, and I was older. I was already out of the house, but my parents got divorced while my three younger siblings were still at home, right? And to varying degrees, that has shown up for them in different ways, right? And even for me as old, it's like it's a weird thing, like leaving home and then all of a sudden it's different when you go, right? So there's different things that can happen. And listen, if you're obviously this, if you're in a divorce or separated relationship and still have kids involved, there's still great work to be done, and you can absolutely do that.
Absolutely.
So number two, though, right? Because we felt like, hey, let's be really super clear about what we want to do and who we're going to be and what's going to be the result of that. In order to then build the building, you can't just build it any which way. There are a number of different ways to build a building, but what you do have to have is an absolute system for how you can build that. So I'm going to write system right here. And the military teaches that in droves. Like most people understand the military to be super organized, right? Like, hey, if you get a kid who's back in the day, maybe they still say it. Like if you had a kid that was rambunctious and didn't listen, had no discipline, you might say, I'm going to send you to military school,
Right.
right? Because that's going to give you discipline and give you order, right? And it's true. There's tons of it. As an officer, I imagine being 22 years old, fresh out of college, and then they put you in charge of 100 people, right?
Yeah,
30
really.
people is
Could
kind
you
of the
take
typical.
charge of that?
I had a weird experience where I ended up as an executive officer, so I had like 100 people. But
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know this. I'm gonna have to kind of learn this and kind of
You're a
fake
kid.
it to make it, which I think is what a lot of parents do. You've never been a parent before, and then now you've got to kind of fake it to make it, and you may not
So
get all the
true.
best habits, right? And even though there's however many books out there, it's still you have to kind of be in it to start to learn it. But the great news is in the military, just like today, there are tons of frameworks to be able to use that will absolutely work. That's what I love about what you do, Celia, is you give people such amazing frameworks to be able to not only be the best parent, but to be able to do it without yelling and all those awesome things. And in the army, like if I had to go learn something about, let's say, like I never turned a wrench on a car in my life. I'm not a car guy. Like I think cars are cool, but I'm not like I'm not into the mechanics.
That's what mechanics are
Um,
for.
but mechanics were in my company when I was 6 years. I had to learn how does a motor pool work, right? Well, guess what? There's an army regulation. There's a field manual. Teaches you everything that you need to do. There's actually very little guesswork. It tells you exactly what the parameters are for conducting a certain operation, what needs to be there, what's the risk that you're willing to take and what you're not. Well, like there's so many guidelines that if you follow this process, if it's 1 foot and it feels like 1 foot after the other, yes, you have to go do it, but if you go take these steps, you will be successful. And that's the fantastic thing. And I think the same thing is true of parenthood. Not that there's not different challenges, but because you're prepared with a framework, it's easy to make adjustments
Yeah, you
and
have to
based on the
learn the
situation.
system. There's
Mhm.
systems for everything, and what people take so lightly is that, well, I don't need to learn how to parent. I already know how to parent, yet you learn everything in your life. If you became a plumber, you learned how to be that. If you became a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, a garbage man, you worked at McDonald's, you learned the system. Well,
Yeah.
there is a system to creating respect respectful, loving, cooperative children without yelling, there's a system. Not flying by the seat of your pants, not just being emotionally reactive, being proactive and putting in place what needs to be put in place.
Yeah, the truth is you could go just figure it out, right? Or you could work on something that people have proven to be successful with. And that's not, we all know, like, the way that people think about raising children today is maybe a little bit different about how they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Like, there's different things that come into play. And like I think about the kinds of entertainment that I would engage with when I was younger, and my kids have like never been a part of that. And I don't think that they would be able to handle it, to be honest with you. Right. But that's okay. There are some tactical things that may change, but there's principles that are going to be true forever, and that's where you really want to
Exactly.
get your frameworks from, right? And that's the amazing part. And again, that's how the military was built. And the last thing that I would want to share, Celia, and this is the one that I think a lot of times, when you have an option, a lot of people get a little bit squeamish about leaning into this one, and it's not on purpose, but because when you're going and doing this, it kind of feels like you're not enough to really admit this, but it's so true. And as I say it, you're going to understand it. The thing that the military has and what they've built in to the organization that makes it super successful, if I'm going to use my little diagram here, is right at the top, is guidance. They have a guide. Like, I could be the a 2-star general. There's a 3-star general, right? There's
That's
a
a good
4-star
point.
general, right? You can be the general of the army. You're going to report to the president, right? There's always
Right. That's a
somebody
good point.
above you that has been in certain situations, that has an outside perspective to help you not be in your tunnel vision, and then can keep you on track. And so again, that's where that guesswork comes from. It's like, hey, I'm trying to do this. This is what we're supposed to do, but it's not working. Well, that leader that you have that's above you, whether you like them or not, their job is to make your job go well. And they want you to go well because it's going to obviously reflect on everybody and success. And we have a big mission. We have so much clarity, right? That everybody's on board, and you go get a guide. And that's where someone like you comes into play. That's where our parents come into play. If you're lucky enough to have great parents who can share with you what they learned, you can go get a mentor, right? There's churches, there's all kinds of ways to get
Right.
guidance that will help you be a better parent if you're just willing to be humble enough to say, hey, I might need a little help here. And so guidance is, and even if you feel like you're doing a great job, you can never like have too much
Right.
support.
And it's
Right.
it's the thought of like wisdom. Where does wisdom come from? It
Mhm,
comes from experience. The
mhm.
people that are upper levels of military have more experience. So they know situations, they know ways that they need to be handled, that you could handle it better. It's the same in life. These are people who are your mentors, your teachers, your coaches that have the experience to keep you accountable and doing what, number 1, you may have said you're gonna do, or making the changes that need to be changed in your life, why people go see therapists and people have coaches and counselors, and because these are people that contain more wisdom and knowledge, and when we only know what we know and things aren't working, then we need to learn more. We need to find out what we don't know. And reaching out to someone who's above you, who's, in rank above you, or someone like me, or a teacher, that's where those people
And
come
I
into
would
play.
add, honestly, and this is it's actually still true in the military too, like having mentorship and guidance that's outside your immediate surroundings, right?
Yes.
So not that like your parents or your pastor or some other people who might be a little closer to you who can give guidance wouldn't want you to be successful, but because there's history, like having a total third party person who still is invested interest in helping you succeed but is not in it is so valuable, right? Which is
Yes.
where you have to be willing to open up that idea of working. And I had that in the military. I had people from different units who don't really know everybody. They may have some connections because it's a lot tighter than you think it is, even on a 50,000 person base. But like getting that guidance elsewhere and having other resources and mentorship that's not in it with you, that doesn't have any preconceived relationship notion, they can just show you exactly how it is so valuable. And so that's the three. If I can recap, right? It's like having clarity of what you want to do and who you want to be, following proven systems and frameworks that will help you get where you want to go, and then having guidance so that if you followed off track or if it's not working how you want, you can get back on track faster than just figuring it out.
Right.
Right. And so that's the three things that I see from the military and even and even post military that has allowed me and others that I've seen be successful is those three things. And so that's where I wanted to relate that to here. Does that I think it's
That is
awesome,
that is
right?
that's great.
When
I mean, that really allows you to thrive, and as a parent, you thrive, your children thrive,
Mhm.
and you are also teaching them those same 3 qualities and things that they need to research for their lives as they move forward. They're taking your example, your role modeling, and they're learning from you,
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
what makes that great.
And so, I see slogans all the time. And I think a lot of people are like, they may feel like an army of one, right? And because there's those slogans out there. But the truth is that even though like you can feel like the capability of that, you don't have to be an army of one. And that's the beauty of it. And so what I see holds a lot of people back is just allowing yourself the space to make these types of decisions in these three areas of how to do that really well, and then taking the time realistically to focus there. Because just imagine if you're watching this or whether you're live with us now, I can't see if anyone's chatting or not, but or you're watching this on replay. Just imagine if you focused in on any one of these three areas. I would start with clarity if I were you, right? But if you feel like you've got great clarity, like then like what would be different if you just allowed yourself the time to focus on these things? Like, wouldn't you see an improvement in your life and your relationships with your kids and your family and beyond? Like, isn't that true? And
Absolutely.
I believe it to be true.
And what's it worth to you? What
Mhm.
if you could have a stronger bond with your kids? What if you could look ahead and think down the road, will my so many kids I have so many people like, "My kids are going off to college. My kids are going off to college." And many parents think that's where the relationship ends. Some parents think the parenting ends, but it's just not true. And
Mhm.
why shouldn't you have a strong relationship with your kids? And the foundation you build that connection on when they're growing up is what continues when they get older.
Yeah. So what I would like to do, and I'm gonna lean forward here because this is so much fun. And if you're watching this and having fun, I want to encourage you to not only continue that journey, but to have some more fun. We have an event coming up that we're gonna co-host together, and it's called the Yell Free Family Masterclass, which is awesome. The little ticker going to go bottom of the screen if you want to go check that out. It's a fantastic event. The details are there. Click the link or follow that URL, however you're seeing this. I just want to encourage you, like if you don't have to wait until the kids are back in school. You don't have to wait until the kids are a certain age. You don't have to wait until after certain points. What if just coming up, you could be in the room with somebody as knowledgeable as Celia, who's been helping parents to do this for many years and has proven systems and wants to pour into you and actually get your questions answered like now. And you don't have to wait. And the great news is that it's a totally free experience coming up to go to that. So I just want to encourage you, if you could do that, if you want to be a proud parent, not just a loud parent, right? Right.
Right.
Come in there. If you
Are
if
you
you
too
can, you'll
loud?
see the details. If you'll see the details to it, go click the link. And there's some awesome bonuses for people who are able to attend. And there's even some ways that you can even upgrade that experience at no cost to you. And so just amazing things that Celia is giving away from her private vault of trainings and resources and
Exactly.
materials. But we're also going to help you. We're going to help you create that plan. We're going to help you with the systems that actually can make you successful and give some active guidance. So we're going to do all three things to make a great, beautiful building that represents your proud family that you're building, right? And that's not to say everybody who comes has to be in dire straits. This is for everybody. If you want to be a better parent, you want to focus on that. We encourage you.
Yes, and isn't it nice for everybody in your family not to be yelling at each other? Because often One's yelling, the other's yelling, and school's here now. Many are starting back to school. Life gets more stressful. Wouldn't you like to go into the school year knowing that you've got tools in your belt to work on creating that connection with your kids, making sure things aren't just going out of hand. They're sticking to schedules. They're wanting to cooperate. They're actually doing their household responsibilities because they're simply asked. Are these things, if they're not completed, if you're fighting every day about getting up in the morning and you're starting off with a stressful morning before you even get to school, what kind of day will you have? What kind of day will your kids have? This is the best time. Why wait? It's free. I'm not even charging for it. We're not
Yeah.
charging for it
At least not
because
this
we
time, right? I
want
mean,
you to
we're
learn.
keeping it open, so we want everybody to come in that can come in. But I mean, seriously, to go to a conference like this, to go to a training, normally you'd have to pay, hundreds of dollars and then go somewhere. We're doing it totally virtually in this comfort and safety of your home. Don't worry if the kids are making noise in the background. I've got kids that are at home; they'll probably be making some noise, right? It's all good. We're gonna have a lot of fun. And we're also going to get some things done for you and help your specific situation. So I
Right.
can't stress it enough. Get to the link below. Run, don't walk. Be somebody who's a proactive, participant. Get in there. Don't wait. We don't know when we're going to do another one of these because time is allotting. But hey, school's starting, right? For many people right now, you can make a change this school year. You don't have to wait.
Yes.
So let's make that start coming up here. Click the link below and get in.
Get in. Get in before it fills up because I think we have limited seats, don't we?
Yeah, there is limits on how many people can attend. It is being done on Zoom, so we have a limit on how many people can
Right.
participate. But if we, listen, come in, right? If we need to find ways to make more space, we will. But as of right now, we expect that to be capped at about 100 people, right? So get in, right? If
Right.
you've seen the link, that means it's active, right? So come on in.
Exactly. It's,
Bring your partner too, right? If you're married or you have a partner in crime, like what I mean, like not crime, it's
yeah,
probably not a
have
good
it,
analogy,
grab
right?
some
Yeah,
coffee,
yeah, bring them
relax,
too, right? Absolutely,
watch. Right.
do it together.
I mean, because yelling is destructive. And I know none of you want, to destroy your kids. I know everybody on here, and that will be part of this masterclass, wants a wonderful, successful family. What if we could create an entire generation that actually blossomed from their childhood instead of having to recover? Right now, therapy, counseling, coaching is multi-billion-dollar industry because everybody's recovering from their childhood. Wouldn't it be nice to change that? I hope you'll be a part of it.
You can be it's a life changing experience for you if you come in and you implement. I think it's incredible, guys. I've got two kids and I've been using what Celia teaches. It's incredible, so I can't wait to be a part of it. So um Celia, thanks so much for allowing me to come on your channels and get to share a little bit about military stuff, right? Sometimes I'm,
Well,
with people
thanks,
who aren't into
Jay,
that, but like,
because I love the comparison. Oh, Funmi, this link is yellfreefamily.com. She's on YouTube. Can you
okay,
see it streaming at the bottom of the screen?
yeah,
Keep
just
watching,
down there.
Funmi.
Yeah, so it's the Yell Free.
Yellfreefamily.com.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk while you were talking. Yeah, it's
No,
at the
that's all
Yell
right.
Free Family Masterclass at yellfreefamily.com, or you can do www.yellfreefamily.com. It'll take you there. You'll see more details. And you can get on it.
It's streaming on the screen if you can see it.
Yeah, you
And
can see
I'll
it
go
here,
back
and we'll
in.
we'll post links.
Can I? Oh, maybe I can post in the comments. Hold on, I'll post real quick and see if that helps you. But the reason we say yell free family is because we don't just want one person to stop yelling at each other. We want everybody to stop yelling at each other. So let's just start approaching calm. When you're calm, it breeds more calm. Wouldn't that be nice? Not stressed, happy, fun, joy, loving each other, all of those wonderful things that a family should be.
Yeah,
You know?
100%. And it starts with taking the first step. If this is the first step for you, then great. If you're wanting to continue that journey, you can't, like I said, you can't have too much guidance. And I can tell you
Exactly.
from experience, you've got on my screen, you're over here, right? You've got some guidance coming to you right there. I'm honored to get to be a part of it, but get in the room. You want to, right? Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jay. I'm honored to do it with you. I appreciate your insight and military because systems work, structure works. Doesn't mean you have to be a tyrant. Don't want that. Wait till you learn how you can literally create the respectful family you want all without yelling. I've raised 5 kids, 29
Without
of
having to
those
feel like a
years.
drill sergeant, right?
Right.
Without having to feel like a drill sergeant.
Exactly. Just like a human being. 29 years in a blended family, and it works without yelling. So thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. I know you guys have busy schedules, and I appreciate you taking time out to hang out with me and Jay. And I look forward to hanging out with you on Saturday for the Yell Free Family Masterclass. Right, Jay?
Absolutely. I'll see you
Okay,
there.
guys. That over and out. And as always, guys, I wish you days filled with peace, love, tons of laughter. You know, it really is the best medicine. You have to laugh more. You have to find your funny. And we'll see you here next time. We'll see you here on Saturday, the Yell Free Family Masterclass at yellfreefamily.com. Bye-bye, everyone.